A lot of Republicans and some Democrats were very, very put out by the fact of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, trying to blame Secret Service or the gun lobby or whatever for what happened. But attempted political assassinations, either of a leader, a political leader, religious leader, whatever, have been part of the landscape in the world, especially the Western world, since 1914 for obvious reasons. Now, I'm not doing this to exploit what happened to Trump. I think all attempts of any leader is misinformed, because let the person run. If you don't like them, don't vote for them, or vice versa. But this assassination attempt was so bizarre, I didn't believe it when I heard it. On May 13th, 1981, probably one of the most important popes of the 20th century was almost murdered in St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. Pope John Paul II was shot and wounded by Mehmet Ali Ağca while he was entering the square. The Pope was struck twice and suffered severe blood loss. The assailant was apprehended immediately and later sentenced to life in prison by Italian court. The Pope eventually forgave him for the assassination attempt. He was pardoned by Italian President Carlo Azeglio Ciampi at the Pope's request, and was deported to Turkey in June 2000. Ağca converted to Roman Catholicism in 2007. Now in 1979, the New York Times reported that Ağca, who called himself the self-confessed killer of an Istanbul newspaperman, Abdi İpci, editor of the Turkish newspaper Milliyet, had described the Pope as a mass leader of the Crusades and threatened to shoot him if he did not cancel his planned visit to Turkey, which went ahead in late November 1979. The paper also said on November 28, 1979, that the killing would be in revenge for the then still ongoing attack on the Grand Mosque in Mecca, which began on 20 November and was blamed on the States or Israel. Now, beginning in August 1980, Ağca, on the alias of Vilperi, began crisscrossing the Mediterranean region, changing passports and identities, perhaps by his point of origin in Sofia, Bulgaria. He entered Rome on the 10th of May 1981, coming by train from Milan. According to his later testimony, he met with 3 accomplices in Rome, one a fellow Turk and 2 Bulgarians, with the operation being commanded by Zilo Vasiliev, the Bulgarian military attaché in Italy. He said he was assigned this mission by Turkish mafioso Bikar Selnak in Bulgaria. According to Ağca, the plan was for him and the backup gunman Oral Silik to open fire on the Pope in St. Peter's Square and escape to the Bulgarian embassy under cover of panic generated by a small explosion. Now, on May 13th, he sat in the square writing postcards and waiting for the Pope to arrive. When the Pope passed through a crowd of supporters, he fired 4 shots at 5:17 local time with a 9mm Browning high-powered semi-automatic and critically wounded him. He fled the scene as the crowd was in shock and disposed of the pistol by throwing it under a truck, but was grabbed by Vatican security chief Camillo Sibe, a nun, and several spectators who prevented him from firing more shots or escaping, and he was arrested. 2 bullets hit the pontiff, one of them in the torso, narrowly missing vital organs, and a second hit his left index finger. 2 bystanders were also injured. Anne Audrey of Buffalo was struck in the chest, and Rose Hall of Frankfurt was slightly wounded in the arm. The Pope was rushed to the hospital while the authorities combed the site for evidence. Selig panicked and fled without opening fire. Ağca was sentenced in July 1981 to life in prison for the assassination attempt, but was pardoned by Italian President Ciampi in June 2000 at the Pope's request. He was then extradited to Turkey, where he was imprisoned for the 1979 murder of left-wing journalist Abdi İpci and 2 bank raids carried out in the 1970s. Despite a plea for early release in November 2004, a Turkish court announced that he would not be eligible for release until 2010. Nonetheless, he was released on parole in 2006. However, 8 days after his release, the Turkish Supreme Court ruled that his time served in Italy could not be deducted from his Turkey sentence, and he was returned to jail. He was released from prison some 4 years later, after almost 29 years behind bars. Now, following the shooting, Pope John Paul II asked people to pray for my brother Ağca, who I have sincerely forgiven. In 1983, Ağca met and spoke privately at Rome's Rebita prison, where Ağca was being held. He reportedly kissed the Pope's ring at the conclusion of the visit. Some mistakenly thought the Pope was hearing Ağca's confession. The Pope was also in touch with his family over the years, meeting his mother in 87, his brother Muzan Aka, a decade later. Although Aka has been quoting as saying to me the Pope was the incarnation of all that is capitalism and attempted to murder him, he developed a friendship with the Pontiff. In early 2005, during the Pope's illness, he sent a letter to the Pope wishing him well. Now, several theories exist concerning Atka's assassination attempt. One, which was initially propagated in American media and strongly advocated since the early 80s by Michael Ledeen and Claire Sterling, among others, was that the assassination attempt had originated from Moscow and that the KGB had instructed the Bulgarian and East German secret services to carry out the mission. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. If they wanted to kill him, they would have killed him. They had a lot of opportunity. The Bulgarian Secret Service was allegedly instructed by the KGB to assassinate Pope John Paul II because he supported Poland's solidarity movement, seeing it as one of the most significant threats to Soviet influence in Eastern Europe. Noam Chomsky and Edward S. Herman instead termed this as the spread of disinformation as news in their book Manufacturing Consent, as they say there was no evidence to support his claim, while Wolfgang Ackner of The Independent dubbed it one of the most successful cases, certainly most publicized, of disinformation. Acca himself has given multiple conflicting statements on the assassination at different times. Attorney Antonio Marini stated he has manipulated all of us, telling hundreds of lies, continually changing versions, forcing us to open tens of different investigations. Originally, Acca claimed to be a member of the Marxist Popular Front for the liberation of Palestine, but denied any ties to it. Now, following the assassination attempt, Acca made claims while in custody that prior to the attempt, he had made several trips to Sofia, where he claimed to have contacts with a Bulgarian agent in Rome, whose cover was the Bulgarian National Airline Office. Soon after the shooting, Sergei Antonov, a Bulgarian working in Rome for Balkan Air, was arrested based on his testimony and accused of being the Bulgarian agent who masterminded the plot. In 1986, after a 3-year trial, 3 years, he was found not guilty. According to CIA's chief of staff in Turkey, Paul Henze, Acca later stated that in Sofia he was once approached by a Bulgarian secret aid service and Turkish mafioso who offered him 3 million German marks to assassinate the Pope. Some writers, including Edward S. Herman, co-author with Frank Broadhead of The Rise and Fall of the Bulgarian Connection in 1986, and Michael Parenti, believe Acca's story was dubious as he made no claims of Bulgarian involvement until he was isolated in solitary confinement and visited by Italian military intelligence agents. On 25 September 1991, former CIA analyst Melvin Goodwin, now senior fellow at the Center for International Policy, claimed that his colleagues, following orders, had falsified their analysts to support the accusation. He declared to the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee that the CIA hadn't any proof concerning this alleged Bulgarian connection. Now, neither the Severino court nor the investigation by Judge Franco Ignata found evidence that CISB planted Acca's story. A French lawyer, Christian Roulette, who authored books blaming Western intelligence agencies for the assassination attempt, testified in court that the documentary evidence he referred to actually did not exist. Now, Le Monde Diplomatique alleged that Abdullah Kotli, a leader of the Grey Wolves, had organized the assassination attempt in exchange for a sum of 3 million German marks for the Grey Wolves. In Rome, Kotli declared to Judge in 1985 that he'd been contacted by the BND, the German intelligence agency, which would have promised him a nice sum of money if he implicated the Russian and Bulgarian services in the assassination attempt against the Pope. According to Colonel Alsperen Turkis, the founder of the Grey Wolves, Kotli had cooperated in the frame of a secret service working for the good of the state. Now, according to Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera, documents recovered from former East German intelligence services confirmed the 1981 assassination attempt against the Pope was ordered by the Soviet KGB and assigned to Bulgarian and East German agents, with the Stasi to coordinate the operation and cover up the traces afterwards. Marcus Wolf, former Stasi spy master, denied any links and stated that the files had already been sent in 1995. Now, in March 2006, pending the 2006 Italian general election held in April, the controversial Mitterrand Commission, set up by Silvio Berlusconi and headed by Forza Italia Senator Paolo Gazzanti, supported once again the Bulgarian theory, which had been denounced by Pope John Paul II during his travel to Bulgaria. Now, The report has been condemned by both Russia and Bulgaria. Foreign Minister spokesman Dmitry Shanchev said for Bulgaria, this case closed with a court decision in Rome in March '86. He recalled the Pope's dismissive comments during his May 2002 visit to Bulgaria. Guzanti said that the Commission had decided to reopen the report's chapter on the assassination attempt in 2005 after the Pope wrote about it in his last book, Memory and Identity, Conversations Between the Millenniums. The Pope wrote that he was convinced the shooting was not ACA's initiative and that someone else masterminded it and someone else commissioned it. The Mitrokin Commission also alleged Romano Prodi, a former Prime Minister of Italy, was the KGB's man in Italy. Now, at the end of December 2006, Mario Scarmella, one of the main informers of Guzanti, was arrested and charged, among other things, of defamation. Cited by La Repubblica, Rome's prosecutor Pietro Salviti, who was in charge of investigations concerning Scarmella, showed that Nicole Paleri, head of CISMI, the Italian military agency, intelligence agency, indicted the Abdul Amr case, as well as CISMI number 2, Marco Mancini, who was arrested in July 2006 for the same reason, for summoning informers alongside Scarmella or Guzanti. Now, in 2009, journalist and former U.S. Army military intelligence officer John Kohler published Spies in the Vatican, the Soviet Union's Cold War against the Catholic Church, mining mostly East German and Polish Secret Service police archives. Kohler claims that the attempt was KGB based and gives details. Now, the date of the attempted assassination was the 64th anniversary of the first apparition of the Virgin Mary to the children of Fatima. On May 13, 2000, Cardinal Angelo Sardana gave a public address in which he linked the then as yet unreleased Third Secret of Fatima to the assassination attempt, while describing the secret as a prophetic vision which does not describe with photographic clarity the details of future events, which he also identified the prophecy's bishop clothed in white as the Pope, and repeated John Paul II's impression that a motherly hand had deflected ACA's bullets. The Vatican revealed the text of the Third Secret itself the same year, on June 26, 2000. Now, while in prison on remand, ACA was widely reported to have developed an obsession with Fatima. During the trial, he claimed he was the second coming of Jesus Christ and called on the Vatican to release the Third Secret. His assassination attempt has also come 11 days after a hijacking of Aer Lingus Flight 164 by Lawrence James Downey, an ex-monk who demanded the release of the Third Secret. Now, on March 31, 2005, just days prior to the Pope's death, ACA gave an interview to the Italian newspaper La Repubblica. He claimed to be working on a book of assassination attempt. La Repubblica quoted ACA claiming at length they had an accomplice in the Vatican who helped him with assassination attempt, saying the devil is inside Vatican's walls. He also said, in the 1980s, certain Vatican supporters believed I was a new messiah, and to free me to organize all the intrigue about Manuel Orlandi and the other incidents they won't reveal. Now, Emanuela Orlandi, the daughter of a Vatican employee, disappeared on age 15 on June 22, 1983. Anonymous phone calls offered a release in exchange for the release of ACA. Archbishop Paul Marcinkus was alleged to be part of the kidnapping, although no charges were ever laid. ACA subsequently denied having made such claims following the publication of the interview. In 2010, he asserted that Cardinal Agostini Casaroli had been behind the assassination attempt. However, when ACA published his memoirs in 2013, his story changed completely, writing that the Iranian government and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini ordered the assassination attempt on John Paul II. Now, the shooting, when it occurred, we had no indication of all this KGB and Iranian and Bulgarian and Russian connection. Speculation is everything. I think they were just basically, for not say religious zealot, but a political zealot. Someone put him up to it, but if you're going to assassinate Pope John Paul II, should be more efficient. What happened with Ronald Reagan? He had people around him that protect him from being murdered. It wasn't the same with Sadat or Gandhi, so it is what it is. But when this occurred, it was like, who's going to be next? I mean, it's left a 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, bang, bang. No pun intended. So that's the many theories around the assassination of John Paul II. And ironically, there was a guy in Woodstock, New Brunswick, asking me about the Trump assassination. He said, well, Have you ever heard something as crazy as that? Well, I said, when he tried to kill the Pope in 81, they were saying the KGB was involved, and the guy said, what's the KGB and who's John Paul II? So, in 2024, if you're over the age of 50 and you see Trump almost get killed, you're saying, oh, just like Reagan, just like, John Paul II, like certain people. Assassination attempts do occur. Very few times in American history are you not going to have assassination attempt. And don't forget Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, who would have ran for political office sometime, either senator or whatever. Malcolm was getting more to be a moderate. They were both murdered. So many people, both Kennedys, George Wallace, Nixon almost, 2 people tried to kill Ford, multiple. From 1965 to 1981, it was assassinations all over the world. People disappearing, people getting shot. But there's various documentaries on the John Paul II shooting, but I want you, if you can find the live news reports from CBC in Canada, the different networks in the States, and when it happened. It was a right panic, that's all I'm saying. Because religious leaders were not assassinated. I think that was the only pope that was, they tried to kill in the modern era. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody could back it up. But it is what it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our take on the assassination attempt on John Paul II, 43 years ago. If you like what we're doing here, we're a historical podcast of key points in American and world history. Let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.